After midnight, the gallery speaks in small sounds. The air unit hums, a vent rattles the clock. Keeps time, tick, tick, tick. David pushes the mop in slow arcs, listening for clean. Water hisses wheels, whisper rubber soles, sigh. The quiet keeps his thoughts from turning on themselves. Last room, he tells the emptiness. He likes this hour, no sales talk, no shoes stabbing the floor. Just polished paper, the ghost of cut flowers. He snaps off the lights one by one. The final click feels like a breath released. Outside, night air slides beneath his collar. On the bus, he sits over the engine and fights the wordless lullaby that visits when he's tired. His building answers with radiator hiss and a neighbor's dog tapping across linoleum. He opens his apartment to a smell he could find: blindfolded apple shampoo, warm crayon cereal cinnamon. Home. Boo, a stage whisper says from the dark. Emma. Bed. I was, then I drew, then I waited. Lamp click. He hears paper slide, small fingers peel tape, a held breath for applause. I made something, she says. Close your eyes. They're already closed, he says, rubbing sand from them anyway. Okay, open. Paper rustles. Marker sweetness mixes with dry charcoal. It's her, Emma says proudly. The lady under the moon. The noise he makes isn't a word. It's the sound a drawer makes when it surprises you. He steps closer, careful. He knows the lines by the rhythm of their making, the slowed rasp at the cheek curve, the pause lift return that leaves an eyelash invisible but present. Elle, he asks softly, where did you learn those lines? What lines? The way you make her look like the moon is listening to her. His mouth tastes of metal and coffee from a life he packed away. Where did you see this? In your book, she says. Paper crackles. The leather one that smells like dust. Top shelf. I climbed. Don't be mad. The kitchen clock fills the pause, tick, tick, tick. It almost fell, she adds quickly. But I caught it. Ninjas are quiet. A memory opens the sketchbook he sealed above the fridge 15 years ago when drawing felt like the only way to keep breathing. In it lives a woman turned toward a round moon, her face unfinished because finishing would have named what he wouldn't let himself say. She, pretty, Emma asks. She's someone I used to know. He keeps his fingers hovering, afraid to smudge what's fragile. You found it yourself. I was hunting for the crunchy pencil, she says, and saw a corner, like a treasure map. He almost laughs. The almost becomes a breath, and the breath a tremor. Emma hears it. She always has. Dad. Was it a bad thing? No. He rests a hand on her hair, apple sweet with sleep. You did something brave. Because the moon feels like ours, she says. Like when you tap the window and say, listen for the quiet light. Quiet light. The phrase lifts from the deep like a bottle. The old melody arrives. He swallows it. Do you think the lady's lonely? Emma asks. I think she heard a promise once, he says, choosing words as if they might cut him, and she's waiting to hear it kept. Like pancakes on Saturday. He smiles into the dark. Like that. A yawn pops in her throat. Not tired, she insists, swaying. Come on, ninja. He sets the drawing on the table paper, whispering. He settles her, the comforter whooshing to her chin. Moon story, she mumbles. The wishing one. He sits on the mattress edge, listening to city hush and the kitchen clock through the wall. He whispers, a lighthouse watched so boats could find home. One evening the moon sent a beam and said, I'll keep you company while the tide is out. The lighthouse asked, will you return when it rushes in? And the moon said he stops. The word won't move. Emma nudges him. What did she say? If you keep your light on, I'll always know where you are. Good, Emma sighs. We keep our light on. Her breathing lengthens. A tiny whistle peeks out at each exhale, the same whistle that used to curl against his collarbone. He sits with it, then eases away. In the kitchen, he climbs a chair, reaches above the fridge, and pulls the leather book from its hiding place. The spine cracks. Paper sighs. There she is, the woman to the moon. He hears the charcoal then the rasp of a younger hand refusing to give a face to grief. Hospitals beep in memory. Words fail. He flips to the back where a folded page waits and finds a note scrawled to no one. Keep your light on. He closes the book and leans his forehead to the cupboard's cool paint. He listens to the apartment, the fridge clearing its throat, a pipe clanging once Emma's soft whistle. The resemblance between his drawing and hers isn't the lines, it's the listening. Both women turn toward a sound only they can hear. Tomorrow, he remembers. The auction. The big one at Sterling. The gallery will wake to microphones and cologne. They're unveiling a piece the founder guarded like a secret prayer. He's heard its name, Luna Mater, Mother Moon. He imagines the clock there louder under lights counting everybody in. He imagines a woman whose life bent around a silence she carries like a sealed envelope. He sets Emma's drawing beside the book. His fingers hover as if blessing both. Emma, he whispers toward the bedroom, though she sleeps you painted a door. Tick, 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 says the clock. I hear you, he answers, and because stories keep their own time, a thought arrives. Tomorrow, the original of Emma's picture will face the world, and a woman who once left a hospital empty-armed will step into that room. He listens to the space between ticks. It sounds like a door starting to open. The first sound Claire hears in the morning is not her alarm, but silence sharp and polished like the world holding its breath before a performance. Then comes the faint hiss of the espresso machine warming the hum of the news anchor bleeding through the penthouse kitchen. She keeps the television on low like white noise to drown the louder things inside her. Another perfect day for perfection, she murmurs. The smell of roasted beans fills the marble space, but she can't taste it. She hasn't tasted anything in years. Her assistant, Julia, speaks from the doorway, voice brisk and practiced. The car's waiting, Miss Whitmore. Press arrives at 10. You'll open with the speech, 2 minutes, no notes. Claire nods, and the painting already delivered to the Sterling Gallery. Security double-checked. The frame's been restored. That word restored cuts like fine glass. She carries her cup to the window. Below Manhattan hums its morning songhorns, Siren's Ambition. Somewhere in the distance, a clock tower tolls 8. The sound vibrates through the glass and into her ribs. For a moment, she sees a hospital hallway, pale green tiles, and a newborn's cry she wasn't allowed to answer. She shuts the memory like a file drawer. Good, she says. Everything has to look effortless. Julia hesitates. Are you sure about showing that piece? Claire Luna Mater hasn't been seen publicly since. Since I painted it, Claire finishes. Her voice is calm, too calm. 25 years ago. People like history. It makes them believe in legacy. Julia's silence is an understanding one. Everyone in Claire Whitmore's orbit knows better than to ask personal questions. The woman built her empire from the ruins of one scandal no one could ever prove. Footsteps echo on marble, slow, deliberate. Richard appears, cufflinks gleaming cologne heavy enough to choke the lilies on the counter. His voice lands somewhere between charm and threat. Morning, darling. Claire doesn't turn. Morning. He kisses her cheek, leaving a trace of whiskey from the night before. Today's the big one. Cameras, donors, a few senators' wives. Don't let them see the cracks. Wouldn't dream of it. Richard studies her reflection in the glass. Just remember, emotion is for the audience, not for you. She swallows. You think I'll cry? I think you remember too much. He straightens his tie, and tears make headlines. We want profit, not pity. He leaves a pause for submission. She fills it with a quiet, practiced smile. Of course, Richard. When he walks away, his shoes whisper authority. The door clicks behind him. The silence he leaves behind feels like air after thunder, emptied of oxygen, but full of echoes. Claire exhales. Her hand trembles only when she sets the cup down. The name of the painting hums through her like a ghost tune, Luna Mater. She had painted it in a basement apartment with shaking hands and a heart still raw from childbirth. It had been her confession, her plea, her only act of defiance before the world demanded silence. She told everyone later it was an exploration of motherhood and solitude. But what it really was, what it will always be, was a goodbye. Now, after decades of pretending it was just art, she's about to hang it under 1,000 lights. The car ride to the gallery is a long sigh of tires on wet asphalt. She doesn't speak. The radio plays softly, piano minor key, delicate as breathing. Somewhere behind her, Julia scrolls through the schedule rehearsing introductions. Claire only listens to the rhythm. Soft pedal pause, soft pedal. Like a heartbeat learning to trust again. When they arrive, flashes explode. The sound is violent. Microphones stretch toward her like reaching hands. Mrs. Whitmore. What inspired Luna Matter? Is it true this piece was painted during a difficult time in your life? Rumor says the title means Mother Moon. Does it have personal meaning? Each question is a dart she's learned to catch mid-air. She smiles. Art always has personal meaning. But today is about giving back. The proceeds go to children's hospitals across the country. Applause. Cameras click. She breathes through the noise, repeating her mantra, art, charity, legacy. Inside the gallery smells of varnish and champagne. She hears shoes on polished floors, voices rising in waves. The painting waits at the center, haloed by soft light. Even through layers of security glass, it breathes differently than the others. The moon in the frame glows with a pulse of its own. Claire stops before it. For a moment, the room narrows to that single image, a woman holding her face to a silent moon, eyes closed, arms empty. The sound in her ears shifts no longer music or chatter, but the faint echo of a baby's hiccuping cry, then quiet. Her throat tightens. She grips the podium before stepping onto the stage. Thank you for being here, she begins. This piece was painted during one of the loneliest seasons of my life. I wanted to capture not sadness, but devotion, the kind that endures even when unseen. A rustle of sympathy passes through the crowd. Cameras flash again. She takes a careful breath. And tonight, may that light her voice quivers. Shine for every mother and child who find each other through art. Applause swells polite and orchestrated. Somewhere at the back, a door creaks open. She catches a faint sound, a mop bucket rolling water sloshing. A man's voice, low and apologetic, murmurs something to a guard. Sorry, ma'am, he says, almost too soft to hear. I was told to clean the hall. She glances instinctively. A gray-haired janitor stands near the rope barrier cap pulled low. His face is half hidden, but his eyes hold a quiet recognition that shakes something loose inside her. He looks once at her, then at the painting, and freezes. She hears him whisper, My daughter painted this. Last night. The words land like a match in dry grass. Her pulse pounds in her ears. 9 years he had said, No, he said my daughter. But still the tremor climbs her spine. Something ancient, half-buried, is waking. A man in a dark suit. Richard's head of security moves toward the janitor. Sir, step away. The man lifts his hands. She's only 9. Drew it from my old sketchbook. I didn't know Richard appears before Claire can breathe. His voice low but lethal. Get him out. Richard. He's ruining the show. The guards move. The janitor tries to explain his words, tumbling. She's just a kid, please. Claire hears one sentence clearly, the one that will not leave her. She's 9 years old. 9. The number tears through 25 years of silence like a blade through silk. She feels her stomach drop, her hands go cold. The world muffles as if sound itself has stepped back to watch. She wants to speak, wants to ask his name, but the guards are already pulling him toward the exit. The bucket rattles wheels, shrieking against the marble floor. Applause resumes, forced, confused. Cameras swing back to her. Ms. Whitmore. Are you all right? Someone calls. She blinks, realizing she's still gripping the podium. Her knuckles ache. She manages a practiced smile, but her voice betrays her. Yes, she says faintly. Just the light. It's brighter than I expected. But inside, she's no longer standing in a gallery. She's back in that hospital corridor, the one where she once whispered a name she was never allowed to use. Emma. Her voice in memory raw and breaking. Her name is Emma. And now across the room a stranger has said it again through his daughter. The applause fades, but the echo doesn't. It clings to her pulse like a heartbeat out of time. 9 years old. Somewhere in the city a child with her eyes is painting under the same moon. The morning after the auction, the Sterling Gallery hums with a hangover of applause. The scent of champagne lingers in the carpet, and the echoes of laughter cling to the high ceilings. But under the polite afterglow, something cracked remains. David stands outside the glass doors, cap pulled low. He wasn't fired yet, not officially. The head custodian told him to report at 9 to finish cleanup. He'd come early anyway, hoping to slip in unseen to avoid more eyes, more questions. The security guard squints at his ID. Clark. Right. Thought you were off rotation. Yeah, David murmurs. Guess they still need floors mopped, don't they? The guard shrugs the universal language of indifference and waves him through. Inside, the silence is different from last night's. Less holy, more hollow. David smells dust polish, the ghost of perfume left by women who'll never think of this place again. He rolls the mop bucket forward, the wheels squeaking a sound that seems too loud in the cavernous hall. And then he sees it. At the far end, still on display behind its rope barrier, the painting glows under a thin shaft of light. Luna Mater. He stops moving. The same tilt of the head, the same sliver of moon at the edge. It's Emma's drawing, only older, richer, more sorrowful. His throat tightens. He wants to look away, but his body disobeys. Behind him, a soft voice. You shouldn't be here. He turns. Claire Whitmore stands near the podium, her hair tied back, sunglasses hiding what the world saw in the papers last night. Tears she swore she didn't shed. David stammers. Sorry, ma'am. I was told to. It's fine. Her tone is distant, practiced. They said you interrupted the auction. He swallows. Didn't mean to. He looks at the painting again. My daughter drew something like that. Same face, same moon. It spooked me, I guess. She studies him. Her voice colder now. Coincidence can be flattering. Or dangerous. Depends on the intention. He feels the heat rise in his chest. There's no intention. She's 9. She doesn't even know your name. The words hang between them. Claire flinches at the number, though she hides it quickly. I understand, she says softly. Still speaking up like that could have ruined the charity event. People paid to feel inspired, not confused. He almost laughs a dry, hollow sound. Yeah, well, people don't usually like seeing the janitor near their inspiration. She blinks, taken aback by his tone. You think I'm shallow enough to care about your job? I think everyone in this room does. He gestures around them. Except maybe the art. Art doesn't care who mops around it. For a moment, neither speaks. The air between them hums with an old ache neither recognizes in words. Claire's voice softens reluctant curiosity seeping through the armor. What did your daughter say when she finished her drawing? David's fingers tighten on the mop handle. She said the moon felt like ours. The silence that follows feels alive. Somewhere a clock ticks 3 times like a whisper marking time's absence. Claire glances at the painting again, her voice barely above a breath. She must be a special child. She is. He clears his throat. Her mom died when she was born. She's all I've got. Something flickers in Claire's expression, the kind of ache you don't learn to fake. I'm sorry, don't be. His tone is simple, final. We manage. She opens her mouth to reply, but a sudden snap cuts through the air. The security rope falls and the frame massive, gilded, unsteady tilts on its hook. David reacts before thinking. He drops the mop, lunges forward, and catches the frame before it hits the floor. The glass rattles the wood, creaks under his grip, but it doesn't break. For a second, the two of them are frozen, his hands clutching the frame, her reflection staring back at him from behind the glass. Their breaths overlap. She hears his, the heavy, controlled rhythm of a man used to holding things that shouldn't fall. He hears hers, sharp, uneven, like someone holding back something other than fear. A guard rushes in. "Everything okay?" "Yes," Claire says quickly, regaining her composure. "It's fine. Just a loose hook." David steadies the painting back on its stand, the muscles in his arms trembling. No harm done. The guard leaves. Claire looks at him, words gathering and dissolving before they can form. Finally, she says, "You saved it." David wipes his palms on his coveralls. Wouldn't want the moon to shatter twice. Her lips part, then close again. Something about the phrase hits too close. He nods once, picks up his mop, and turns away. "I'll finish up and be gone." As he walks off, she stares after him, her reflection in the glass overlapping the face of the painted woman. The moonlight inside the painting seems to pulse as though something long dormant has begun to stir again. Behind her, the janitor's footsteps fade, but a different sound replaces them, a faint rhythmic tapping from somewhere deep inside the walls. It sounds impossibly like a heartbeat. Claire presses a hand to her chest. 9 years old, she hears again like a whisper threaded through the silence. Then faintly, she thinks she hears the echo of a child's laughter carried by memory or imagination or fate. She whispers to herself, "What if it isn't coincidence?" Her voice trembles. What if it's a sign? The clock ticks once, twice, and a loose screw drops from the back of the frame, clinking onto the marble floor. Claire flinches at the sound. Something has broken. Not the painting, something else, something within her. And as she stands alone in that vast, echoing hall, the words of the janitor replay one after another. She's 9 years old. Rain slicks the streets of Lower Manhattan like spilled ink. The city hums beneath it, sirens dissolving into static buses hissing through puddles, voices blending into the sound of survival. Inside the black sedan, Claire sits motionless, eyes fixed on the blur of headlights sliding across the window. The driver says nothing. He's paid not to. In her lap rests a manila folder with a single name typed in clean black letters, David Clark. Her hands, immaculate as ever, tremble slightly as she opens it. Photographs spill out a cramped apartment in the Bronx, a small girl with tangled hair laughing in front of a chalk mural, a man older than she remembered him being last night walking her to school. There's something in his posture she can't stop staring at, the quiet dignity of someone who's been forced to bow too long yet still refuses to break. She shuts the folder. Enough. The voice of the private investigator crackles through the speakerphone. "That's all we could find so far, Ms. Whitmore. He's clean, no record, no debts, nothing questionable, but he's been fired. Gallery management claims he caused a scene." Her jaw tightens. He was telling the truth. A pause. "About what, ma'am?" She doesn't answer. "Keep this between us. My husband can't know." "Yes, ma'am." The line clicks dead. For a long moment, she just listens to the rain, to her own heartbeat, counting down the seconds she's lost. David Clark. Emma. The girl's face in the photo looks too much like a memory she spent her whole life avoiding. The same shape of the eyes. The same tiny freckle beneath the left one. Claire presses the photo against her chest and whispers, "You can't be her. You can't be mine." But she knows better. Some truths arrive long before you believe them. Across the river, in a small third-floor apartment where the walls hum with the sound of old pipes, David stands over a cardboard box labeled Sterling Uniforms. He folds each shirt with methodical calm, as if precision could make it hurt less. Emma's voice drifts from the table. "Daddy, you smell like rain." He glances at her, smiling faintly. That's because rain smells like work. Then it smells good. The girl is painting again, always painting. The faint scratch of her brush against the paper sounds like comfort. The room is dim, the only light a lamp with a missing shade, but David can see her focus. The tip of her tongue caught between her teeth. "What's that one?" he asks. A moon that forgot its stars, she says solemnly. He chuckles. Sounds lonely. Not if someone finds it. He pauses. And who'll do that? She looks up, eyes bright. Maybe the lady from your gallery, the one you talked to. David freezes. How do you know about her? I saw her on TV. Emma says, brushing gold paint across the page. She looked like she was listening to something no one else could hear. He opens his mouth, closes it again. Some part of him wants to tell her the truth, that he saw the same thing, but instead he says, Finish your stars, sweetheart. The moon's waiting. When she turns back to her work, he exhales slowly, the sound catching in his throat. He moves to the shelf, pulls down the old leather sketchbook, and lays it open on the counter. Each page smells faintly of turpentine and years. He runs his fingers over one unfinished portrait, half a woman's face turned toward a light source that isn't visible. You shouldn't be here either, he whispers. Not again. The apartment answers with the creak of old wood and a faraway train whistle. He shuts the book, slides it back onto the shelf, and whispers, We're fine, Em. We always are. But the words ring hollow like a prayer spoken to an empty church. That night, Claire sits in her study, the city lights casting fractured gold across the glass desk. Richard's voice echoes faintly from the next room, a business call, the same mixture of arrogance and entitlement she's learned to tune out. She opens the folder again. On the last page is a handwritten note from the investigator widower. One daughter, age 9, art scholarship candidate, Bronx Academy. She rereads the number 9. It feels less like a fact and more like an accusation. Her phone buzzes a text from Richard. Remember the press interview tomorrow. No more surprises. And cancel that charity check, bad optics. Claire stares at the message, the letters blurring. Bad optics. Everything in his world comes down to appearance. But what if appearance is the lie that's killing her? She deletes the message and opens another app. A search bar blinks Bronx Academy of Art and Youth. Her fingers hesitate, then type Emma Clark. A single result appears. Winner Citywide Junior Art Showcase. Below it, a photo Emma holding a painting of the moon. Claire's breath catches. She clicks the image open. The caption reads, My dad says the moon keeps our light on. Claire's hand flies to her mouth. That phrase, it's impossible. Keep your light on. The words she'd once written inside a folded letter, the one she left with her newborn before the nurse carried her away. Her vision blurs. She drops the phone, the clatter echoing through the vast room. From the other side of the house, Richard calls out irritated, Everything all right in there? Yes, she says quickly, voice trembling. Just drop something. He grunts and returns to his call. Claire stares at the phone lying face up on the rug. The girl's smile glows from the screen. 9 years old. A face that carries her own. A phrase that no one else could have known. And a janitor who looked at her like a man seeing a ghost he still loved. Hours later, David wakes to the whisper of rain against the window. The apartment is still except for the faint tick of the kitchen clock. He sits on the couch, unable to sleep, watching the shadows move like ghosts on the wall. He doesn't notice the car parked across the street, headlights off, engine idling. Inside, Claire watches the faint rectangle of light from his window. She sees movement, David adjusting the blanket over a small figure asleep on the couch. The tenderness of it steals her breath. She whispers into the dark, How do I tell you I never wanted to leave her? The rain answers, steady and forgiving. For the first time in 25 years, she lets herself cry. Not the tears she uses for cameras or performances, but the kind that burn quiet holes in the soul. In the Bronx, where sirens fade into lullabies and broken things learn to keep going, two lives once divided by silence begin to turn toward each other like moons searching for light. And far inside the building unseen, a child shifts in her sleep and murmurs, Mommy. The word drifts into the rain, finds no answer, and waits. The Bronx smells like wet concrete and frying onions when Claire steps out of the cab. The rain has stopped, but the streets glisten as if still remembering. Her driver protests softly, "Ma'am, this isn't a safe area." "I'll be fine," she says, pulling her trench coat tighter. The city hums differently here, closer, more human. Laughter from an upstairs window, the wail of a saxophone bleeding from a bar, a baby crying somewhere down the hall. It feels alive, unpolished. Real. The address on the crumpled note brings her to a narrow building with cracked bricks and a rusted intercom. She presses the buzzer marked Clark D. A pause, then a child's voice crackles through. "Who is it?" Claire freezes. That voice. She clears her throat. "A friend of your father's. Daddy's painting," the girl says. "He can't come right now." "That's all right," Claire whispers. "I'll wait." Moments later, the door creaks open. David stands there, rag in one hand, confusion in his eyes. He looks older than the night at the gallery, tired, guarded, but still with that quiet steadiness that unsettles her. "What are you doing here?" he asks. She hesitates. "I came to apologize. For what happened at the auction." "You didn't throw me out," he says flatly. "No, but I didn't stop them either." He steps aside without speaking, and she enters. The hallway smells of detergent and oil paint. Every wall is covered with drawings, children faces, small universes of color taped like fragile prayers. Emma peeks out from behind a doorway. "Hi," she chirps. David warns gently, but the girl is already walking up, curious and fearless. Claire kneels instinctively. "You must be the artist." Emma grins. "Daddy says I get messy, but that's okay because moons don't mind fingerprints." Claire laughs softly. "I think you're right." The girl's hair smells faintly of vanilla shampoo. Claire closes her eyes a moment longer than she should. When she opens them, David is watching, arms crossed. "Emma," he says, "why don't you finish your homework?" "Okay." She runs off humming a tune that sounds eerily familiar, something Claire once hummed to herself in a hospital bed long ago. When the door clicks shut, David gestures to the worn sofa. "Sit, if you want, but I don't have anything fancy to offer." "I didn't come for fancy," she says quietly. "I came to understand." He leans against the wall. Understand. How a 9-year-old girl could reproduce a painting I made 25 years ago. His eyes narrow. "You think we copied you?" "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." His voice rises, not angry yet, but edged. "You came all the way here in your rich lady shoes because you think I used your art for money. For what fame? You think people line up to buy paintings from janitors?" "David." "No," he cuts in. "You listen. I've worked my whole damn life cleaning other people's floors so my daughter can dream past the stains. She found that sketch in one of my old notebooks. That's all." She falters. "Your notebook?" He grabs a worn leather sketchbook from the counter and tosses it on the table. The thud lands like a warning. "It's old. Pages I filled up years ago. May I go ahead?" She opens it slowly. The pages smell of graphite and years. Faces bloom from the paper, a woman under moonlight, a pair of hands holding a child's blanket, a lighthouse surrounded by waves. On several sheets the same moon returns, tilted, listening, rendered and re-rendered until the paper thins. Her breath catches. "How did this image end up in your sketchbook?" David exhales through his nose. "I copied it years ago from a torn magazine page I found in a thrift store. No title, no credit. It just wouldn't let me go." "Some paintings don't ask permission," Claire says, voice low. "They just stay." He sets the sketchbook down between them. "Emma only mimicked what she saw in my old pages. There's no grift here, no plan." A beat of silence hums with the refrigerator's soft rattle. "Then maybe it isn't theft," she says at last. "Maybe it's a thread. Whatever it is," he answers quieter now, "keep it away from Emma until we know what we're holding." The silence after that is heavy. The sound of Emma's humming filters through the door, sweet and oblivious. Finally, David sighs, shoulders sagging. "Look, I don't know what this is. Maybe the universe has a strange sense of humor, But please don't drag my daughter into your mystery. I'm not trying to, she says, though the words taste uncertain. I just need to know why she looks. She stops herself. He studies her. Looks what nothing. No, say it. Claire meets his eyes. Why she looks like me. He freezes. For the first time, he really looks at her, at the line of her jaw, the shape of her eyes, the faint dimple that mirrors his daughter's when she smiles. Something flickers behind his expression. Fear, disbelief, something unnamed. Before he can speak, a knock rattles the door. Hard. Sharp. David frowns. Who, another knock, louder this time. A man's voice booms through the wood. Mr. Clark, Gallery Security. We need a word. Claire's blood runs cold. Richard. She knows that tone anywhere. David opens the door a crack. 2 men in suits stand there, rein on their shoulders. Mr. Clark, one says smoothly, we were told there was stolen material in your possession. Stolen, David repeats. The man's gaze slides past him, lands on Claire. His eyes flicker with recognition. He touches his earpiece. Ma'am, Mr. Whitmore sends his regards. Claire's stomach drops. Richard sent you. Of course, the man replies. He takes care of what belongs to him. David's voice hardens. You should leave. But before they can, the taller guard steps forward, forcing a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. We will, once we confirm the lady's safe. Claire grabs her bag. I'm fine, she says quickly. They're leaving. The men exchange a glance, then step back reluctantly. The door closes, the lock clicking like a gun being cocked. David exhales. Friends of yours? Not anymore, she says. He studies her suspicion, softening into something else. Worry, maybe. What are you mixed up in? Claire. Her answer comes out a whisper. My past. He doesn't push. Instead, he picks up the sketchbook again and sets it gently on the table between them. Whatever it is, keep it away from Emma. Claire nods, eyes glistening. I will. But as she leaves the apartment and steps into the rain, her mind refuses to quiet. She clutches the photo of Emma she'd taken from the folder earlier. Her voice trembles against the wind. You don't know me yet, David. But you know her. Upstairs unseen, Emma presses her face to the window, watching the strange woman disappear into the fog. Daddy, she whispers, the moon lady came to see us. Morning breaks gray over the Bronx, the kind of light that hides more than it reveals. David stands at the stove, frying eggs that hiss like soft applause. Emma sits at the table, coloring quietly, her brushstrokes slow and careful. Sunny side up, she says. Always, he answers, sliding the spatula under the egg. The smell of butter fills the small kitchen, mingling with the faint sound of traffic and someone's radio 2 floors below. But David's eyes are heavy. He hasn't slept since last night, since Claire Whitmore stood in his living room with rain on her coat and ghosts in her eyes. The knock at the door startles him. 3 short raps, uncertain. He sighs. Probably Mrs. Alvarez again. She always forgets her keys. When he opens the door, Claire is standing there. No makeup, no armor, only a tremor in her hands and the look of someone who has finally stopped running. Can I come in? He hesitates, then steps aside. Emma's face lights up. You came back. Emma, David says gently, maybe give us a minute. Okay. It's okay, Claire says softly. She can stay. Emma beams, holding up her latest drawing. It's you and Daddy and the moon. See, you're smiling this time. Claire's breath catches. It's beautiful. David clears his throat. Coffee, please. He pours it into a chipped mug, the same one he's used since college. Claire holds it like something sacred. The silence between them stretches, filled only by the scrape of Emma's crayons and the ticking of the wall clock. Finally, Claire sets the mug down. I didn't tell you the truth yesterday. David leans against the counter. Figured as much. I didn't come to accuse you, she says. I came because I needed to know if she stops. If what I felt at the gallery was real. What did you feel recognition? Her voice cracks on the word. When I saw Emma's drawing, I knew it before I'd ever seen it. David frowns. You knew it because it looks like yours. Maybe we share a muse. Claire shakes her head. No, it's not that simple. She opens her bag, pulls out a folded sheet of paper, the kind yellowed by years of being kept too long. She places it on the table. The edges tremble. David looks down. It's a birth certificate. The name reads Emma Grace Clark. His stomach tightens. What is this? Look at the mother's name, she whispers. He does. The line is blank. I was never allowed to sign it, Claire says. Her voice quivers like glass. They told me the adoption was sealed, that I'd never see her again. David stares at her. What are you saying? I'm saying. She swallows hard. I had a daughter. 9 years ago. They told me she died. Her name was Emma. The air goes still. Even the clock seems to hold its breath. Emma looks up, puzzled by the silence. Daddy David forces a smile. It's okay, sweetheart. Why don't you go wash your hands? We'll have breakfast soon. She tilts her head, sensing the shift in tone, but nods anyway. When the bathroom door closes, David turns back to Claire. You expect me to believe this? No, she says. I didn't believe it either. Until last night. She reaches into her bag again, pulling out a small faded envelope. This was the note I left in her blanket. He hesitates before taking it. The paper is soft from time and tears. Inside, in delicate handwriting, are 4 words, Keep your light on. His heart stops. That's what Emma says, he murmurs, every night before bed. Claire's lips tremble. Because I said it first. He grips the back of a chair. How could this happen? The hospital told me her birth mother was gone. She finishes quietly. Because Richard paid them to say so. He said a child would ruin everything. I was young, scared, and he was already powerful. When I gave birth, they told me she'd been adopted out of state. He made sure I couldn't find her. David's voice hardens. And you just believed him. I had no choice. Her eyes glisten. But when I saw her picture on the art school's website, I knew. I knew the universe doesn't keep secrets forever. He wants to argue, to deny, to protect what little order he has left. But the truth is already rewriting everything he thought he knew. The same eyes, the same laugh, the same phrase. Does she know? Claire asks, voice barely above a whisper. No. He shakes his head, and she can't. Not yet. Claire wipes her cheeks. I'm not here to take her away. I swear it. I needed to see her, to make sure she's real. She's real, David says softly. She's my life. Claire nods, looking around the small apartment, the cracked tiles, the old furniture, the warmth that lives in every corner. You've done more for her than I ever could. She doesn't need your guilt, he says quietly. She needs peace. I know. She looks toward the bathroom door. I just wanted to hear her say her name once. The name I gave her. David's throat tightens. You named her Emma. She nods. I whispered it to her before they took her. I told her she was my light. The bathroom door opens. Emma steps out drying her hands. She sees Claire crying and freezes. Are you okay? Claire kneels, wiping her tears quickly. Yes, sweetheart. I'm okay. Did Daddy say something mean? David starts to speak, but Claire shakes her head. No, your dad's kind. He gave you a good home. Emma looks between them, frowning. You sound like you know us. Claire forces a smile. Maybe I do. Emma giggles. That's funny. Claire hesitates, then whispers, Do you know what your name means? Emma shrugs. Daddy says it means whole, or universal. Claire nods. It also means the one who is loved. The girl tilts her head. I like that. When Emma turns away to feed the goldfish, Claire stands. David watches her, torn between anger and something dangerously close to understanding. I should go, she says. He nods. Probably best. She walks to the door, pauses, then turns back. For what it's worth, thank you. For loving her when I couldn't. Her voice cracks on the last word. David doesn't answer. He just watches as she disappears down the hallway, her footsteps fading like the echo of a choice made long ago. He closes the door, leaning against it, eyes shut. From the kitchen, Emma's voice rises soft and curious. "Daddy, why was she crying?" He swallows hard. "Because sometimes, sweetheart, people remember too late." Emma frowns. "That's sad." "Yeah," he says quietly. "It is." Outside, the morning brightens a little, spilling pale light through the window. On the table, the birth certificate flutters in the draft. The blank line under Mother catches the light, glowing faintly like a name waiting to be written. Night drips slow over the Bronx, heavy with thunder that never quite arrives. The kind of weather that makes windows rattle and memories stir. David sits alone at the kitchen table, staring at the unpaid bills spread like confessions across the wood. The room hums with the quiet rhythm of Emma's soft breathing from the bedroom. He hears every tick of the clock, every sigh of the pipes. The silence is the same kind that haunted him years ago when he first brought a baby home, with no one to help, no one to ask how a janitor planned to raise a miracle. Then comes the knock. 3 deliberate raps. Not a neighbor, not good news. He opens the door a few inches. 2 men in tailored suits stand under the flickering hallway bulb. The taller one smiles with teeth too white for this building. "Mr. Clark, we were told this was your residence." David's body tenses. "Who's asking?" The man hands him a sleek envelope embossed with gold letters, Whitmore Industries. "Mr. Whitmore sends his regards," he says smoothly. "He understands you've recently spoken with his wife." David's grip tightens on the door. You can tell Mr. Whitmore his wife can speak to whoever she damn well wants. The man's smile doesn't fade. He opens the envelope, sliding out a check. The number stares back 6 zeros, trailing a 5. David feels the floor shift. $5 million, the man says. "For your cooperation. You'll take your daughter and leave the state. Start over. Fresh air, new schools. No questions asked." David laughs, once harsh and short. "You think you can buy me?" "No, sir," the man says. "We're buying silence." He places the check on the table by the door. "You've got 24 hours before we assume you're not interested." After that, life gets complicated. The men turn and leave their shoes tapping away down the corridor like a metronome counting down his piece. David shuts the door and locks it twice. For a moment he just stands there staring at the rectangle of paper gleaming under the kitchen light. The ink looks wet alive. He can almost hear it whisper, freedom, security, escape. He sinks into a chair. The check flutters between his fingers. 5 million. The number is obscene, impossible. It could buy Emma a life without fear, without cold mornings and second-hand clothes. It could buy him time, real time, to paint again. But it would also mean disappearing, leaving behind everything that's real, including the woman who, against every law of reason, had just turned his life inside out. The floor creaks behind him. "Daddy." He looks up. Emma's hair sticks out like a halo, her pajamas wrinkled. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" He forces a smile. "Just thinking, honey." She pads closer, rubbing her eyes. "About Mommy." The question slices clean through him. "Yeah," he says quietly. "Something like that." Emma climbs into his lap, warm and light as breath. "Don't be sad, Daddy. You have me." He kisses the top of her head. "I know, kiddo. I know." She looks at the check. "What's that?" "Just paper," he says quickly, folding it in half. "Nothing important." "Looks shiny," she says, yawning. He chuckles softly. "Shiny doesn't mean good." Like glitter on the floor, she murmurs, already half asleep. He carries her back to bed, tucking the blanket around her shoulders. The faint sound of rain taps the window again. He stands there for a long time, watching her sleep, listening to the fragile rhythm that means everything to him. Back in the kitchen, the check waits like temptation itself. He stares at it until dawn turns the sky gray-blue. Then with a steady hand, he slips it into an envelope and seals it shut. Across town, Claire sits at her vanity sleepless. Richard's reflection looms in the mirror behind her shirt, pressed eyes cold. He buttons his cufflinks like a man tightening armor. "I met with the lawyer," he says. "Our reputation's secure again. That man won't bother you anymore." Claire doesn't turn. "You sent people to his home." "I sent help," he corrects. "Generous help. Do you think I'd risk everything for some janitor's fairy tale?" She meets his gaze in the mirror. He's not lying. "You don't know that." "I feel it." Richard's laugh is quiet cruel. Feelings aren't facts. Money is. And thanks to me, he'll disappear quietly like all inconvenient ghosts. Her voice is sharp now. "You're talking about a child, Richard. A little girl." "Your mistake," he hisses, stepping closer. "Don't forget who cleaned up your past. You like your empire, your charity, your fame. All of that exists because I buried your scandal." Claire stands slowly, fury shaking her voice. "You buried my daughter." For a second, his mask slips. "Be careful, Claire. Don't make me regret letting you keep your name." She looks him dead in the eyes. "I already do." When he leaves the room, the air smells of cologne and something rotting underneath. Claire's hand shakes as she picks up her phone. She dials a number she memorized the night before. David answers on the second ring. "Yeah, it's me," she says. "I figured." His tone is tired. "Your husband sent me a check." Her stomach sinks. How much enough to buy silence in bulk? "I'm sorry," she whispers. "He thinks control is love. It's not." David laughs bitterly. "No, it's business. I didn't know he'd do that. Didn't you?" The pause that follows is long, ragged. Then she says softly, "What are you going to do?" He looks at the sealed envelope on the table. His fingers twitch toward it. "I don't know yet. Whatever you choose," she says, voice trembling, just, "don't let him win. Hard to win when the game's rigged. Then change the rules." He exhales. "You sound like an artist." "I used to be," she murmurs. "Maybe you still are." The line hums with silence, thick and alive. Somewhere outside, thunder finally breaks, rolling deep through the city. "Claire," he says quietly, "if anything happens to us, if he tries again, I'll stop him," she interrupts. "I promise." "You can't promise that." "I can promise I'll try." The storm cracks again, lightning flaring against his window. For a heartbeat, the check gleams white-hot in the dim light like temptation waiting for a signature. David stares at it a long time, then whispers, "I just want my daughter safe." "You're not alone," Claire says. Her voice is steady now, almost fierce. "Not anymore." When the call ends, he takes the envelope, walks to the sink, and strikes a match. The flame trembles, dances, devours. Paper curls. Ink melts. By the time the fire dies, all that's left is ash and a man who has chosen love over survival, even if it costs him everything. He whispers to the empty room, "We keep our light on." Outside, thunder fades into the distance. Cut to the Whitmore penthouse. Night hums against the glass. Richard stands by the window phone at his ear. "Richard Lowe, if he won't take the money, we make a spectacle. Court is theater, and I own the lights." He ends the call, watching rain trace the pane and his reflection harden. Richard, to himself, silence is bought. Narrative is written. And then, almost gently, he adds, "Every light burns out eventually." And in the space between them, fate sharpens its next blade. The morning after the storm, Manhattan wakes under a sky scraped clean by rain. But inside Claire Whitmore's penthouse, the air feels brittle, as if even the walls are waiting for something to shatter. She stands in the center of her art studio, a space she hasn't used in years. The tarps are stiff with dust. The easels lean like tired soldiers. A single canvas waits on the stand, blank and unforgiving. Her hands tremble as she dips a brush into paint. The smell hits her first turpentine oil and the faint metallic tang of memory. It's the scent of who she used to be. Richard's voice carries from the doorway, smooth and sharp. That's new. Planning to start painting again. She doesn't turn. Maybe I should never have stopped. Because of him, his tone drips with disdain. The janitor, Claire, closes her eyes. His name is David. Richard crosses the room, the soles of his shoes clicking on marble. You've lost perspective. That man's a parasite. He saw an opportunity and took it. He played you. She sets the brush down. He didn't ask for anything. You did. Richard exhales through his nose, amused and dangerous. You're not thinking clearly. That check I sent was a courtesy. It could have been worse. It was worse, she snaps. You threatened him. You threatened a child. He shrugs. Collateral? You used to understand that word. Her hand curls into a fist. Not when it's our daughter. The sentence hangs between them like a live wire. Richard's face hardens. You're delusional. No, she says, voice breaking. You're afraid. Afraid the truth will cost you everything. He steps closer, lowering his voice to a hiss. The truth will destroy you, Claire. You think people will forgive you for abandoning a baby, for lying to the press about your perfect life. I didn't abandon her, she says, tears cutting down her cheeks. You took her from me. He stares at her eyes gleaming cold. And I'd do it again. The brush slips from her fingers, clattering against the floor. Something inside her, the part that's been silent for 25 years, finally stands up. Then I'm done living in your shadow, she says. He laughs softly. You don't get to leave me. She looks up, voice steady now. Watch me. He studies her for a long, dangerous moment. Then he smirks. You'll regret this. Maybe she says, but at least it'll be my regret. That afternoon, Claire calls her lawyer. She doesn't whisper this time. She doesn't hide. Her voice is clear, unwavering. I want to file for divorce, she says. The line goes silent. Then the lawyer clears her throat. Understood, Ms. Whitmore. You realize this will be public. I want it to be, Claire replies. Across the river, David's phone vibrates on the kitchen counter. He wipes his hands on a towel and answers. David Clark. It's me, Claire says. Her tone is different, fierce, alive. You okay? I've never been less okay, she says, almost laughing. But I'm done running. He leans against the counter. What did you do? I left him. David blinks. What I told Richard I want a divorce. He rubs a hand over his face. Claire, that man's dangerous. I know, she says. That's why I'm not letting him define the ending. He exhales. He'll come after you. Then, let him, she says simply. He's built his empire on silence. It's time to break it. David is quiet for a moment. Why tell me this? Because I need you to trust me, she says, and because Emma deserves to know her truth. Not the version written by lawyers and liars, but the one painted by the people who love her. He hesitates. She's just a kid, Claire. She's the only innocent one in this whole story, she says. If we go to court, she needs both of us to stand there not as enemies, but as her parents. The words land like a blow and a blessing all at once. You'd go public, he asks. Yes. He runs a hand through his hair. That means reporters, headlines, everything. I've lived my whole life pretending, she says. I'd rather live one day honest. He doesn't answer right away. He looks toward the bedroom where Emma is sketching her voice, humming softly to herself. David. He exhales slowly. All right. If we do this, we do it together. Claire's voice breaks. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, he says. This isn't over, I know, she whispers. But maybe it's beginning. Later that night, Claire walks through her empty penthouse. The lights are off, but she moves by instinct. She collects what matters, her sketchbook. Her old brushes the photograph of her painting Luna made her. When she reaches the elevator, she looks back one last time. The city glows beyond the glass walls, perfect and distant. She whispers, You can keep the skyline. Richard, I'm taking the light. The doors close, sealing the life she's outgrown. David meets her the next day in a quiet corner of Central Park under an elm tree heavy with rainwater. The ground squelches beneath their feet. Claire looks smaller out of her armor jeans, a wool coat, eyes tired but clear. You came, she says softly. Didn't think you'd actually call, he admits. I thought I'd be brave, she says, managing a smile. Turns out bravery looks a lot like shaking knees. He chuckles. Yeah, feels the same. She takes a breath. I filed the papers this morning, and I told my lawyer I want to testify on your behalf when the custody hearing starts. He blinks. You'd do that. You raised her, David. You're her father in every way that matters. I just want to be part of her life without taking her away. Something in his chest loosens. You really mean that? She nods. Emma deserves both her parents. The ones who love her, not the ones who own her. He looks at her for a long moment. There's no glamour in her now. No fame. No artifice. Just a woman stripped bare by truth and standing anyway. Claire, he says quietly, you don't owe me this. I owe it to her, she replies, and maybe to myself. He studies her face the way the wind lifts strands of her hair. For a second, they just stand there, two broken pieces finally fitting into something whole. Then his phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. You just declared war on the wrong man. He shows it to her. Her eyes flash with anger, not fear. Let him come, she says. I'm done hiding. David nods. Then so am I. Rain begins to fall again, soft, insistent. She lifts her face to it, and he hears her whisper something like a prayer. To new light, she says. He adds, and clean floors. She laughs the sound startlingly warm. You never stop mopping, do you? He smiles. Not when something's worth saving. They walk together through the rain, side by side, neither speaking but both hearing the same thing, the sound of courage being born. And somewhere back in the Bronx, in a room filled with sketches of moons and mothers, a little girl paints in silence, her brushstrokes calm and sure. When Emma finishes, she looks up at her drawing and whispers, The moon's not lonely anymore. The courthouse smells of paper and rain. Reporters crowd the marble steps, their cameras clicking like insects. Inside, the air feels heavy, anticipation, fear, and coffee gone cold. David adjusts his tie, one that doesn't quite fit. It's borrowed from his neighbor, and he can feel the scratch of the fabric against his neck. Across the hallway, Claire stands with her attorney face, calm eyes, rimmed red, but determined. He catches her gaze for a moment. There's no more pretending now. No money, no pretense, no barrier of class. Just two parents walking willingly into the storm. Before they enter, Richard's lawyer leans toward him, voice rough as sandpaper. Attorney Low Press is lined up, sir. Let the cameras roll first, control the story, then crush them. Richard, coldly, narrative is control. The bailiff's voice cuts through the tension. Case number 38221, Whitmore versus Clark. Custody hearing in session. The words sound like a verdict before it's even begun. Inside the courtroom, fluorescent lights buzz softly. The judge, an older woman with kind eyes and a voice that brooks no nonsense, glances through her notes. Let's begin. Richard sits at the plaintiff's table, immaculate as ever. His lawyer, the same man with the gravel voice, stands to speak. Your Honor. He begins, his tone slick and self-assured. My client welcomes this hearing. Transparency serves both the child and the public. Facts over rumor. The world deserves the truth. David stiffens. A performance, he thinks. Your Honor. The lawyer continues, my client's wife has been manipulated by this man, David Clark. He's unemployed, financially unstable, and unfit to care for a child. We are seeking an emergency custody order to place the girl under Mrs. Whitmore's care, where she can have a future. Claire flinches but says nothing. David's attorney, a young public defender who looks terrified, rises. Your Honor. Mr. Clark has raised his daughter alone since birth. He's provided her a safe, loving home despite hardship. There's no evidence of neglect, no reason to remove her from his care. The judge nods slowly. Proceed. When David takes the stand, the microphone crackles with his breath. His hands twist in his lap. Mr. Clark, the opposing lawyer, begins smoothly. You're currently unemployed. Yes. Fired from your last job for unprofessional conduct. David stiffens. For speaking the truth. The lawyer smiles thinly. So, a pattern of defiance. Tell me, how do you intend to support a child without stable income? David opens his mouth, then closes it. His lawyer whispers, Answer honestly. He exhales. I'll find a way. I always have. The lawyer pounces. I'll find a way? Isn't a plan, Mr. Clark. Children need more than good intentions. David meets his gaze voice steady. They also need love. That's free. A murmur ripples through the room. The lawyer shifts, irritated. No further questions. Claire watches him step down his shoulders, heavy but unbroken. When the judge calls her name, she rises, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her skirt. Mrs. Whitmore, the lawyer says, you are a woman of considerable means. Surely you can provide a better environment for the child. Claire's voice is soft but unshaken. Money doesn't raise children. People do. Still, wouldn't it be best for her to grow up with opportunity? She already has opportunity, Claire replies, because she has love. She has David. Gasps flicker through the crowd. Richard shifts in his seat, jaw tightening. The lawyer presses on. Are you saying you believe Mr. Clark should retain custody? Claire nods. Yes. The lawyer blinks, thrown off script. Mrs. Whitmore, you filed this petition. Are you withdrawing your claim? She takes a deep breath. I am. The judge leans forward. Please clarify. Claire turns to face the courtroom. I was the one who painted Luna Mater. I was also the one who gave birth to a little girl I was told I'd lost. That girl is Emma. I am her biological mother. Gasps echo across the room. The judge's pen freezes. But Claire continues, her voice breaking. The person who raised her, who taught her kindness and courage, is sitting right there. David Clark is her father. I'm not here to take Emma away. I'm here to tell the truth. Richard surges to his feet. Claire, sit down. She doesn't. No, Richard. I've been sitting down for 25 years while you told me what to say, what to feel, who to be. Not anymore. Do you have any idea what you're doing? He hisses. You're destroying us. No, she says softly. You destroyed us the day you made me choose between my heart and your reputation. The judge raps her gavel. Order. But the room is alive now, reporters scribbling, whispers rising like wind. Richard's lawyer tries to recover. Your Honor. This woman is clearly unstable. Claire cuts him off. Unstable because I'm telling the truth. Then yes, I'm unstable. But at least I'm not heartless. Her gaze shifts to David. For a moment, everything else falls away. He rises slowly, his voice thick. Your Honor. She's right. Emma doesn't need two people fighting to own her. She needs two people who love her enough to stop. The judge studies them both, then sets her pen down. I've seen many cases where the law tries to solve what the heart has already decided. This is one of them. She looks at Richard. Mr. Whitmore. I find no grounds for your claim. The child will remain under Mr. Clark's custody. Mrs. Whitmore is granted joint visitation and parental involvement as deemed appropriate. Richard starts to speak, but the judge's gavel falls again. Enough. Case closed. Outside, the courthouse steps explode with noise, questions, flashbulbs, chaos. But in the center of it, David and Claire stand side by side, silent. She turns to him. I didn't know what the judge would decide. He smiles faintly. I did. How? Because Emma told me, he says. She said light always finds its way home. A tear slips down her cheek. She's right. At that moment, Emma bursts through the doors, led by a court aide. She runs straight into David's arms, laughing through tears. We won. Daddy, he hugs her tight. We didn't win, sweetheart. We just kept our light on. Claire kneels beside them, hesitant. Emma turns eyes bright. You came. I wouldn't miss it for the world, Claire whispers. The girl throws her arms around her. You smell like paint. Claire laughs softly. That's how you know it's really me. Reporters shout flashes pop, but the noise fades behind the sound of a little girl's laughter, the kind of sound that rewrites endings. Above them, the clouds break. Sunlight pours over the courthouse steps, warm and new. Richard watches from the car, his expression hard as glass. You think you've won, he mutters to himself. But love doesn't pay bills. He drives off tires, slicing through puddles. But for the first time in years, Claire doesn't care about the cost. She only feels the weight lifting from her chest. David reaches out, brushing her sleeve. You okay? She nods, looking at Emma. Better than okay. The three of them stand together in the light, battered, imperfect, but whole. Somewhere in the distance, a street musician begins to play. The tune drifts through the air, soft and familiar, a lullaby about the moon finding her way home. And for the first time, it sounds like peace. Morning breaks over the city like forgiveness, soft, unhurried, golden. The courthouse storm has passed, and for the first time in months, David wakes without the weight of dread pressing on his chest. The apartment feels different. Quiet, yes, but not empty. There's laughter somewhere in it, faint and real. Emma's laughter. He follows the sound to the small kitchen. Claire sits cross-legged on the floor beside Emma, painting on scrap paper, both of them wearing his old T-shirts for aprons. There's a streak of blue on Claire's cheek, and Emma giggles every time she adds another accidental smear. Morning. Dad, Emma calls. We're painting courage. Courage, he says, leaning on the doorway. Claire looks up, smiling. Apparently, courage is purple. Emma nods solemnly, and it sparkles. David chuckles. I'll take your word for it. He walks to the counter, pours himself a cup of coffee, and for a moment just watches them, two lives he thought he'd never see in the same room. It feels fragile, miraculous, like sunlight after too long underground. When he looks out the window, he notices the sky clearing. The Bronx never looked so gentle. Even the rooftops seem to breathe. By noon, they stand before the shuttered storefront on the corner of Arthur Avenue. The faded sign reads vacancy. David unlocks the door, dust swirling in thin golden beams. Welcome to Moonlight Mothers, Claire says softly. Emma gasps. That's the name. Claire nods. I filed the paperwork this morning. David looks around the empty space, the cracked tile, the echoing walls, the promise hiding beneath the dust. We're really doing this. We are, she says, a free art studio for kids in the neighborhood. Painting, sculpture, storytelling, somewhere they can learn that light can come from anywhere. He raises an eyebrow. And who's funding this masterpiece? Claire grins. I sold one of my paintings yesterday. He frowns. Which one, Luna Mater? He blinks. You sold the moon. She laughs. For a good price. The buyer said he saw hope in it. Maybe he saw himself, David says. Maybe she replies, meeting his eyes. But it doesn't belong to me anymore. That story's finished. This one's beginning. David soffed a wry smile. I burned his money. You funded this with your art. His deal wanted us gone. Your painting invites everyone in. Claire quietly, then let this place be the answer money couldn't buy. He nods slowly, feeling the truth of it settle deep inside him. They start cleaning together. The sound of brooms, the soft thud of boxes, Emma humming while she sketches a sign for the front window. The rhythm feels sacred work, as prayer, laughter, as healing. By late afternoon, sunlight spills through the glass, painting the floor in gold. Claire leans against the counter, wiping sweat from her brow. I forgot how good it feels to build something real. David hands her a bottle of water. You didn't forget. You just needed a reason. She studies him for a moment. You've always been good at finding reasons. He shrugs. Or maybe I just stop running when I find something worth staying for. Their eyes meet. Neither looks away. Emma's voice breaks the silence. Daddy, can we paint the sign now? He smiles. Go ahead, kiddo. She props a cardboard panel on a chair and begins carefully painting the letters. Moonlight Mothers, art for every child who dreams. The letters wobble imperfect and beautiful. When she's done, she turns around, grinning. It's good, right? Claire crouches beside her. It's perfect. Later that evening, they stand outside the shop. The sun dips low, painting the sky in pinks and golds. David flips the light switch inside. The bulbs flicker, then glow, steady, warm, gentle, alive. Claire exhales. There it is. The light, he asks. She nods. It's home. They stand shoulder to shoulder, watching the glow spill through the glass onto the sidewalk. Strangers pause, curious, smiling as they pass. David slips his hands into his pockets. You sure you're okay with this? You could go back to your old life. You'd have everything again. I already do, she says simply. I have Emma. I have peace. And I have you, whether or not we know what to call that yet. He smiles, eyes soft. I'll take that. A week later, the studio opens its doors for the first time. The line of children spills out onto the sidewalk, laughter bouncing off the buildings. Inside, canvases line the walls, jars of brushes glint in the sunlight. David guides a group of kids through their first lesson, painting what happiness sounds like. He listens to their answers, rain, laughter, footsteps, heartbeats, and realizes that's exactly what he's been painting all along. Claire walks among the children, tying aprons, offering gentle advice. Every so often she glances toward the corner where Emma sits at her own easel, tongue between her teeth, utterly focused. When the class ends, Claire finds David by the window. He's watching the sky again. It's funny, he says. For years I thought the moon was something far away. Now I think it's just a reflection of whoever's willing to shine. Claire smiles. Then you've been the moon all along. He chuckles. You're the first person to call me radiant. I said reflective. She teases, laughing. He laughs too, and for the first time it doesn't sound tired. That night, after Emma falls asleep in the corner of the studio, they turn off the lights except one, a small lamp glowing near the window. Claire whispers, You keep your light on. He nods. Always. She reaches out her fingers, brushing his. For her, for all of us, he replies. Outside, the moon rises over the Bronx, no longer cold, no longer distant. Its light finds its way through the window, touching every brush, every canvas, every scar that's learned how to heal. And in the quiet hum of that little studio beneath the heartbeat of a city that never sleeps, love begins again, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, like the return of light after a long, faithful night. The gallery smells of varnish and sunlight. Soft music hums through hidden speakers, piano, slow and tender, the kind that seems to breathe. Children's laughter flutters at the edges of the sound, echoing down the newly painted halls of Moonlight Mothers. Emma stands on a small wooden stage at the center of the room, her hair braided with a silver ribbon. Behind her, a canvas rests under a white cloth, tall and silent, waiting to be seen. Her hands tremble just a little, and her father catches it from across the room. David stands near the back tie, slightly crooked sleeves rolled. Beside him, Claire adjusts the microphone, her movements calm and practiced, but her eyes glisten with pride that refuses to stay hidden. The lights dim slightly. The crowd of parents, students, and neighbors quiets. Claire's voice fills the room warm as candlelight. Thank you all for coming. Tonight isn't about fame or art or money. It's about light, the kind that finds us when everything else goes dark. She glances at David. And sometimes that light takes the shape of a child who reminds us why we keep painting at all. Applause ripples through the room. Emma blushes. Claire gestures to her. Our final piece tonight was created by our youngest student, but it carries a story older than any of us. Emma, would you like to tell everyone about your work? Emma takes the microphone with both hands. The sound of her breath fills the speakers. She looks nervous at first, but then she catches sight of her father smiling softly, nodding once. That's enough. My painting's called Moonlight Together, she says, voice clear but delicate. When I started it, I wanted to draw the moon again like before. But Daddy said maybe I could draw something new this time, something about now. She takes a deep breath and pulls the cloth away. The canvas beneath shimmers with silver and gold. 3 figures stand beneath a vast moon, their faces turned toward its light. A woman's hand rests on a little girl's shoulder. The man beside them holds a lantern. The brushwork glows with something between dream and memory. The crowd sighs. Someone claps softly. Emma continues. People ask me who taught me how to paint. I always said, my dad. But I think now it was both my parents. My dad showed me how to see the world with kindness. My mom showed me how to see it with courage. She pauses, voice trembling. Maybe. They both painted me in their own way. Claire presses a hand to her mouth, tears spilling freely now. David's throat tightens. He remembers the nights of silence, the years of struggle, the single promise that had carried him through every shadow, keep your light on. Emma looks out at the crowd again, her gaze steady. I think art is just love you can see. The room erupts in applause, but David doesn't hear it. His ears ring with something deeper, the echo of her words, the sound of a future finally finding its shape. After the ceremony, the crowd thins and the last of the laughter fades into evening. The gallery is quiet again, washed in silver light from the tall windows. Claire stands beside the painting fingertips, brushing the canvas. She's extraordinary. David nods. She is. You know, Claire says softly, there was a time I thought I'd lost everything. But somehow losing it was how I found both of you. He smiles, tired but content. Life's funny that way. She turns toward him, eyes shining. Do you ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't met again? Sometimes, he admits. Then I remember it wouldn't matter. The moon would have found a way to pull the tide back home. Claire laughs softly, shaking her head. You and your metaphors. They work, he says. She looks at him, and the silence between them fills with things they don't need to say. Gratitude, forgiveness, the kind of love that doesn't demand, only understands. They both look back at Emma now, fast asleep on a bench, her head resting on her sketchbook. Claire whispers, She's dreaming. Good David says, She's earned it. Outside, the city glows. A bus rumbles past, a saxophone wails from a corner somewhere, and above it all, the moon hangs large and bright, watching over them like a silent witness. Claire reaches for David's hand. Do you think she'll remember any of this when she's older? He squeezes gently. Maybe not every detail, but she'll remember how it felt. That's what stays. They stand there together, hand in hand, surrounded by the hum of life and the whisper of paint drying on fresh walls. After a long moment, Claire leans her head against his shoulder. Thank you, she says quietly. For what? For keeping the light on. He smiles, eyes glinting. You helped me find the switch. She laughs through her tears. We're really doing this, aren't we? We already are. The clock on the wall ticks softly. Somewhere. Emma murmurs in her sleep. Claire looks at the painting one last time. The moon, the 3 figures, the lantern glowing between them. I used to think healing meant going back, she says. Now, I think it means beginning again. David nods. Together. The light in the studio flickers once, then steadies, warm, constant, faithful. And, outside, the moon lifts higher over the Bronx, its glow spilling across rooftops, alleyways, and artless walls. It touches every broken thing, turning cracks into lines of silver, every wound into proof that light can still return. The music swells again, piano and breath, and the sound of a child's laughter echoing faintly in the distance. A voice, gentle, timeless, seems to speak through the silence. We don't choose the families we're born into. But sometimes love chooses us again, and teaches us how to begin. The light lingers on the painting, on the faces within it, and on the real one standing beneath it. 3 souls bound by lost forgiveness, and something brighter than either of them dared to hope. Outside, a single phrase drifts up through the open window. David's whisper to the sleeping world, "Keep your light on." And this time, the whole city seems to answer back. Sometimes healing doesn't come as a miracle. It comes as a whisper. A hand held out in the dark, a small light that refuses to die. David, Claire, and Emma remind us that love doesn't always arrive when we expect it, but when it does, it rebuilds everything we thought was lost. It teaches us that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the purest form of courage. If you've ever lost someone or found a piece of your heart in an unexpected place, this story is for you. Have you ever witnessed a moment of kindness or love that changed someone's life? Share your story in the comments, because your voice might be the light someone else needs tonight. And, before you go, tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from every corner of the world. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next journey of love, healing, and second chances. Thank you truly for spending your time with us, for listening, and for keeping your light on. Until next time. This is your storyteller wishing you peace, forgiveness, and a heart that always finds its way home.